Hi there guys. Today I'm going to put together the Polaris. This is the swept wing version. So I guess let's go ahead. First of all, I like to just clear out all the little holes for the wires and for the aileron hinges and this sort of thing. So here I have a drill with a 1.5mm drill bit, and I simply just clear out the ends of all the anywhere where there's a hinge, just to make sure that they're all clear. I've actually gone through and done all these, and also good idea to clear out the hinge on the wing and the tailplane. Just clear them out, and depending how your printer prints the lightweight PLA will depend on what size hinge pin you use. Now, with some of these hinges, I can fit like for instance the rudder there, I can actually fit a 1.5, that's a 1.5 carbon fibre, but it won't fit in the aileron hinges. So I'll simply use a 1.2, this is just a 1.2 piano wire. There's not really a lot of difference, I don't think, in the weight of these things for the short little pieces that we're going to be using. The other thing you might want to do is where the push rod fits. I'm going to change the drill bit to I think this is maybe a 2mm or a 2.5, and I'll just clear out any on the fuselage, just the ends, in case they've got blocked up during printing. That's for the push rod. And likewise, I'm going to clear out, this is a 6mm drill bit, and I'm just going to clear out the ends again of the printed surface for the carbon fibre tube, just in case when you've printed the ends have got blocked up in any way, like that for instance. Just always a good idea to clear these out, just to make sure. And also you will need to, on the fuselage part, you will just need to drill, I've already done it, but you will need to drill into the end of each one of the carbon fibre tube slots in the fuselage, because it has to be printed in a way that it blocks off. On the first one I did, I made the joint in the middle, which meant you had to have a hell of a long drill to get in there. So what I've done, I've made the joints on this one about 20 or 30mm in, so that you can just use a standard drill. On the Polaris, just use a piece of tube or anything just to push the plastic through in the centre. Okay, that's a good start. Now it's a good idea. I always use a an arrow shaft these days. Again, if you can't get the arrow shafts and you've got the 6mm carbon fibre tube, I believe, I'm not sure which is 6mm. Anyway, should you have problems getting the tube through again, if your printer is printing and making the hole for the carbon fibre tube a little bit too small, what I did, where is it? Anyway, I just got myself a piece of this is just a 6mm piece of wire, and I sharpened the end and made myself a little spade bit which I can put in the drill and run through there just to open up the tubes for the carbon fibre arrow shafts or tubes, just to make them fit a bit easier. But these arrow shafts fit quite nice. They're quite enough fit. So before we start gluing, it's always a good idea to, I know I'm probably telling you guys how to suck eggs, but this is the way I always do it. It's always a good idea to test fit the parts first before you glue them. So here's the arrow shaft to line everything up. As you can see, that fits together quite nice, and likewise put that on, and it fits together quite nice too. And then if we pull that through, now what I've done on the later one, I've actually put another arrow shaft through here, through this part and through that part, just to add more strength to this. And again, there we go. But before we glue all this together, because we have to put the motor in here, we have to put the motor cables through the fuselage, we have to put the servo which fits in here into and through the fuselage, the servo cable. Not easy to do while it's in one piece like this, so it's a good idea to leave the gluing together until we've actually fitted the motor wires, at least anyway, the motor cables, extension, and the servo cable for the elevator. The rudder comes through the fuselage anyway, so that's not a problem. So first of all, I'm going to cut out this. It's marked in there, so I'm going to cut it out. Now you can either cut this out with a knife, or you can cut it out with a soldering iron. And notice I said soldering iron. It seems that some of you guys think soldering is the name. Well, it's not, I can assure you. I was apprentice trained as a sheet metal worker, and I can assure you it's solder, not solder. Soldering is something else, really. We'll not go into that. Okay. Right, so just cut out the little piece there for the servo. I only ever use the Hobby King. I get these from Hobby King. These are the HXT 900s, the 9-gram servos. Just check and make sure that fits in. If not, we can trim it out a little bit. Yes, it needs to be trimmed out just a fraction. Not super important. That this is in exactly the spot, as long as it's fairly close. Okay, now I'm sure that that fits in there. We have a little spacer. That's this one here. It's a little spacer. And that fits on the left-hand side with the flat bar on top. You just have to, because it's printed a little bit big, you might just have to run this handy block over that a little bit. The music you can hear is my washing. It's just my washing machine's telling me that my clothes are finished washing. Okay, that's better now. See that? I'm just going to now glue that in place. I use I just use the Hobby King cheap super glue, and also I use their Instaset accelerator. Okay. Now before I do this, I'm going to test the servo and center it, just to make sure everything's okay before I and the extension lead. I'm going to test it just to make sure that everything's okay. We're back again. First of all, this is the firewall or the motor mount. I've printed this in ABS. If you don't have ABS, PETG will probably suffice, and just remount the valves with a, I don't know, that's about a 3mm I think. And in the back there are recesses for the nuts. I've done 3 of them, so I'll just do the last one now. And the way I do it, I get a slightly longer bolt. These are 3M, and I put the bolt through. I put the nut with a big washer on the front. Put the nut on, draw it into the recess until it starts to go in, and then you can actually pull the nut down into the recess like that, and you'll find it's a fairly tight fit in that recess. And there we are, that's all 4 in there. Shouldn't need anything, but if you fancy it, if you wanted, you could put a little dab of glue on, or even get your soldering iron and just heat it over the top of the nut a bit, but I don't think they're going to come out. Alright, so okay, so now we have the motor mount. I've cleaned up all the edges on all the parts. I've left this. You have to just trim out the back, and again I use just clean up all the edges on all the parts, because some have got brim on to help adhere it to the bed. So clean off all the brims, just sand all the edges and clean up as you would normally do with it. So we can mount the motor mount on there now. It's just simply a matter of gluing that in place. You'll notice there's a double thickness wall in there. That was 2 reasons: 1, to make it stronger naturally, and 2, so that it would print this as a solid, otherwise it won't print in spiral mode. So again, I've made sure that fits. I did a test fit. And I've also checked the servo and added the lead. That's about a 2-foot lead, 600mm lead, something like that, extension lead. And I'm going to put a little bit of tape around that. You've probably got your own favourite way of doing this. Sometimes I use tape if I can find the end of the bloody thing. Sometimes I might use a shrink film. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to wrap a bit of tape around that, just to make sure that the lead doesn't come apart from the servo lead. Then I'm going to pass this through there, because we've got the mounting block for the servo on there. The servo is a little bit tight in there. motor. And we've got a couple of screws in there. A couple of screws that come with the servo to hold the servo onto that block. Okay, I'm going to feed this. I've actually cut out a slot at the bottom of there, at the front of the horizontal stabilizer. I cut a slot, and now we can feed that servo wire through, and it will should go down. I've made quite a reasonable size slot down here now, and I've made this a nice curve on this one, so that the cables will come through here a lot easier. Okay, so that's the servo cable through there. Now I'm going to feed the extension cables for the motor. We'll wrap a bit of tape around that end and do all them together. Motor, no, that's the way that goes here, so that's right. Okay, so that needs to come through there. And there we are. I find a tight fit, but they do go through. I've got a couple of extensions on there. This is an extension lead that I made. Okay, so there we have the extension on now. Hoping that they're long enough to get me through into the, yes, they're long enough to get me through into the bay. Okay, so now we can actually join these two pieces together, and what I've done, I've made a tube for the cables to go through on this one. I found that the other one, it was a little bit fiddly to get the cables through, so I've actually put a tube in there to feed the cables through. So they should feed through quite easily. Okay, so we've got the servo cable, extension cable running through. We've got the motor mount cable running through. So now there's no reason we can't glue this together. Okay. Make sure you don't glue glue the cables. The carbon fibre tube will hold everything in straight. Just make sure it doesn't glue itself inside there. And good. Cables are quite free. Yep. Okay. So now we can feed the. Oh, before we do that, I think. Okay. Now we've got so far we can fit the ailerons into this section at the aileron servos. So what I'll do, I'll get a couple of servos, check them, and then we'll come back.